Well, welcome to the Toadstead. Here we are on a nice, semi-quiet Saturday morning. Birds are doing their thing. And today's video is just going to be about the layout and what we've got going on here. I've got a bunch of questions, and this is, like I said, good time because, well, we haven't gotten anything started yet. So we'll just start at the beginning. There's the mill. Yeah, it's a HM 130, 16 foot, 14 horsepower, electric start, blah, 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 blah. We really like it. It's working great. So just starting from left to right. Now we call these bark splits. They're kind of when we first take the bark off, and I have a group of people that likes making fence posts out of these. Excuse me, not fence posts, but fence pickets. So as we cut them, we just make a pile, and every once in a while we pull out the chainsaw and knock the large ends off to about 8 feet long, load them up and deliver them. This also happens to be right where my concrete septic tank is, so it's a handy place to put these and kind of make sure that somebody doesn't drive over it with a tractor, which at this point has never been a problem. Yeah, so there you go. This is our log bunker, and our one, there's kind of a story behind that log. It's about 10, 12 feet long. You can see towards the bottom there where we hacked off a bit. And quite frankly, at that time, on that day, we just didn't have enough strength to spin it on the mill. And, we did the right thing and just pushed it off the mill. And we'll get back to that one eventually. It's really more the wood that's going to come out of that, not the most desirable, and we've got other things going on. So it's just kind of sitting there in the way at this point in time. Now these are getting towards the end. You can see they're smaller diameter, foot, 14 inches maybe. And these we can pick up with the tractor, which is why they're here, because we can come in, pick them up with the tractor, and put them on the mill. This little guy, well, he needs to be hoisted up in there, and we'll get to that eventually. In fact, today we're going to be looking into another way to do that. And we'll make a video if we get a chance. And got that log right there. It was just a stump end that got pulled in. I guess when we were cutting, we decided to be curious to see what's inside. And when it got laid down, I sat my butt down on it and realized that it's very comfortable. So there it's going to sit next to the blueberry bushes, and it's what we do. So here's the mill. Now some of you, this is actually what made me want to do this video, so questions. And they said, hey Toad, looks like your mill base sucks. Yeah, it does. It does. But there comes a time where we could either take the time to build an entire thing for this, or just get to cutting. Now, when we made this decision, it was before we built the kiln, we'll get back to that in a minute. It was before a lot of the other stuff that's done now was done. And we needed to do things now, is what it comes down to. So we spent probably a month or so part-time, learning how to use this thing. And that's where this pile started. This pile's grown a bit because it's gone from being just a place to put stuff to where we do put our 1x stuff that eventually becomes board and batten and other just cast-offs as we're going along. The pile kind of sucks, but you can see there's going to be a lot of board and batten needed. And well, that's where we just started putting our bits. And over here is this messy spot is the leftover bits. This pile was double the size at sometimes, and we threw some stuff down there. We'll go down there in a second. But we really needed to build the kiln. Without the kiln, we couldn't build, and we wanted to start building. So we took our bits pile and believe me, you can tell it was bits, and built the kiln. And we're going to come back to that too. But today's just an overview. So let's take a walk down there where all those timbers are. Okay, we're down here in the back. And as you can see, there's some 4x6 timbers, some other timbers, a lot of 4x6 stuff. More often than not, I hate to admit, early, we took every tree we could get. And, well, sometimes a timber was all we could make. And in fact, this one, you see that 4x4 in the front? We made that, and it just, I think it was like the second or third to the last cut. The thing just bowed. So, couldn't bring ourselves to throw it on the burn pile. So it got stored back here. And there's some longer 1x stuff that's just hanging around. And while we're down here, that is the top of the burn pile. You see on the bottom there's a few bigger pieces, but that thing's probably 12 feet in diameter. Kind of a big campfire. I just bring it down here with the tractor, which I'll show you in a minute. And every once in a while, we spark it up. We use the ash. We go ahead and spread it on the gardens and whatnot. So that's how we get rid of what people don't take. We have some people that come by and get stuff. They can use it for different things, and that's how we work out. So let's go back up there on top. Before we go back over by the mill, this is our hardwood bunker, and we're just not there yet because we don't need the hardwoods for our ongoing project right now. So as we come across them, they're cut anywhere from, I think the short ones are 10 and the longer ones are, I don't know, 15, 16. But as we bring home logs, we just throw the hardwoods over here, and we'll hopefully get to use them in the future. And there's the set of forks that we use. Really inexpensive. They clip onto the front of the bucket, and I modified the grapple to hold them on. I'll show you that. Now this is one of the tractors we use. It's a Montana, 27 horsepower. Now for all intents and purposes, it's a gray market LS. That's as much as I can find out about it. It was bought in the early 2000s, right after Hurricane Katrina. It was used for Katrina cleanup, and then I rescued it from a yard where it wasn't getting used very much. Now this tractor tends to go out on the job site. We take it out on that trailer because this is the one we use to collect wood. And it's got a few little modifications. And there's some videos, I guess. I remember if I did them. This is just I think they call it a saw haul. And this is where I keep one of the 20-inch bar chainsaws when I'm running around. And this thing was modified to skid logs and to move trailers. We have a few trailers around here, and occasionally got to move about. So we left the original ball hitch and added this apparatus for skidding, which of course we can swap them back and forth if we need to. And then that's a Harbor Freight, what do you call it, a quick hitch, I guess. So we can cut down a tree, get the tree all rigged up to this, drag it to the trailer, and the trailer has, you just barely see it right in the box right there, has a 12,000 pound winch, and we have a halo crane that mounts right here that so we can load some extremely heavy logs on there. And on the front, it's got your typical bucket with a grapple. Now this will pick up, I have to guess, but it's not a very heavy tractor, and we don't run any weights on the back of it. So just like it sits, you know, it picks up, it gets up into the mid-high 20 in diameter of 8-foot logs, and not only puts them on the trailer, but can put them on the mill. In fact, this one sitting here looks kind of funny. That's a stump end. It's 25, 26 inches in diameter, and we just did one yesterday at this one's mate. It was about a foot longer for somebody who needs ramp treads. And that's what's going to happen to this one too. But this tractor obviously picked that up no problem. And then if you look right there on the ends, there's a couple of welded buck teeth on there. And when I can put the forks slide on to two reinforced areas here, when I close the grapple locks the forks on, which is so much easier than dealing with. I think the forks came with these big giant bolts to bolt it down and all that. You know, you tip it forward, it falls off. And we only use the forks not very often. Probably the biggest thing is when we're cutting a log like this, all of our scrap and trash gets thrown onto this, which is parked with the grapple open. And then in between logs, or however it works out, we take that down to the burn pile. And here's the kiln that we built. And let's just go ahead and let me get it open and we'll have an overview. All right. The cloudy morning is part of the reason I'm doing this video now, is because what we have here is a couple of industrial sized style 12-volt fans, one there and one over there. And even in this really cloudy, very early in the morning, the sun hasn't really come around yet, they're already doing their thing. And you see the shadow there, that's the solar panel. Anyway, this works really well for us. It's about 16 feet wide, 8 feet deep on the outside. And we can hear the door creaking because the little breeze is going to try and shut me in the door. And this thing is insulated. It's got foam insulation, 2 inches, everywhere but the floor. And you can see how thick the door is. And then it's board and batten on the outside. And this beaded board was something we just acquired from a construction site. And the whole thing's done with the beaded board on the inside. And the reason we didn't insulate the floor is right now it pulls cold air up from the floor. And it seems to be working really well. We got to put a couple vents in. We just haven't decided where. And at this point, it probably will hold more wood than it will do a really good job of drying, because how much wood you can dry effectively has a lot to do with how many square feet of roof you've got. I'll do that calculation at some point, but the reason it's as big as it is A, well, we knew a place to get the lumber, and B, we wanted choices how we're able to put things in, because there's some 2x8s and a bunch of 2x6s of different lengths in here. And then I think I told you about that stump log that's on the mill. All of that came out of its slightly larger brother. And that's all going to be treads on a ramp a friend of mine needs. So we threw that together. And you can see we keep concrete blocks just to keep the ends from warping up. And then we keep a tote of stickers in the back. And that thing full, pretty much does the trick. So we have a lot of choices about what size lumber we can put in here. Now the mill will do 16 feet, diameter 33 inches. I'm a little skeptical on that. I've had, the logs look bigger than they actually are. I'm not going to whip out a measuring tape, but I can look at that and tell you it's about 26 inches. And I've had as many, the big brother of this one that I just did yesterday, it was right at 28, give or take. And the mill handled it no problem. But what we run up against is that you're using hooks to spin the log as you cut it up. And when you get in this that's loblolly pine right there. That stuff, an 8-footer at a couple of feet, you're talking 1,600 pounds. God who knows what the oak's gonna go. You have to be able to flip the log. And if you don't have enough physical strength to do it, it really doesn't matter what size the mill will cut. So so far we're very happy. We have not gotten a log on here that we couldn't cut. And the reason we've never gotten a log on here that we couldn't cut is the log will cut bigger than anything we can physically maneuver around. So I want to give a shout out to Sawing with Sandy right here, because before this whole thing started, I watched a lot of his videos, and not only is he a fun guy to watch and a pretty honest, straightforward guy, but layout, the way we decided to lay this out, we were very constrained about how much space. We've only got 2 acres here, and not a small portion of it is, there's a peanut crop over there, there's a peanut crop on the other side of the tractor, and there's a sorghum field out back. So we have to be careful. Plus, right now, we're basically facing south, as you can guess with the solar panels up there. We pretty much have to go by the sun, how much room we got, crops, and trying to keep the toadstead all integrated. And watching him, listening to him and his reasons why, some of the things he did, really helped key us into the best way to do it. Now, talk about some changes coming up. Yeah, a platform's coming up for this. But we also want to integrate not only the platform to the saw, to everything that's here, but we want to make sure that our solar potential in the future, because while this will not have a roof, it just might be a solar panel stand with an interesting first floor. So that's kind of why we've got things here. When we load logs, we take them out of the bunkers. We've actually got 2 here, but we've been so busy. We filled that the other day. So we've pretty much decimated our logs thing. And when we pick up the logs that are horizontal or perpendicular to the mill, we can pick those up, come around, and we load from this side. Couple of reasons. The sawmill generates a bit of sawdust. We've, through trial and error in other ways, because I have there's a wood shop behind me, and the sawdust from there is something we integrate into the gardens. Well, one thing we found out, if you pour a whole bunch of it, it turns into concrete. It's kind of a pain in the butt. Well, here we were able to use that to our advantage, and we do go ahead and smooth out, more or less, the sawdust as it comes off. And we're building ourselves pretty much a pad right here to be able to drive the tractor and put logs on the mill. Also, we use those forks to unload the mill. And again, stability and all that stuff while we're doing that. We need a concrete pad out here, and we can't afford to have a concrete pad laid out here, so we're going to slowly make one log at a time. On this side, the logs that we want to cut, but our tractor won't lift, end up being shoved, or however we do it. They'll be parallel with the mill here, and we've got a set of old timbers. These are actually part of, we got a whole bunch of telephone poles. I live in a hurricane area. Hurricanes do visit us, take poles, and we get bits. So these 2 end up being ramps. And even though tractor usually won't pick up something like this, it will nudge it and flip it onto the ramps. And then we use this, essentially I call it a boat hoist. That end slides down in the same place as the log stops, and this thing works just like you were pulling your bass boat up onto the trailer. And for those of you who are new, don't know what the log stops are, those are log stops. Right now we got some little ones in there. We're gonna swap them out for some big ones, obviously. And any place you see where a log stop can go, that winch can go, and the winch wraps around the log, comes back underneath the log. We hook it on right there. And even my 120-pound lady can winch a 2,000-pound log right up the ramps onto the mill, and off we go. We don't get a whole lot of those big ones, but we have had to cut, well, some rather large boards. This is our very messy but effective mill box. And what we keep in it, now down here are some bits, right? I haven't installed them yet, but they'll allow that machine to do lap siding. That's a whole nother kettle of fish we'll get into later. But everything from a level, yeah, we keep that little saw here. We keep that small steel. It's got, I think it's got 20-inch bar on it. And that's just knocking off things that are in the way or modifying whatever's on the mill. And then, should have closed that, but that's the torque wrench for just making sure that the blade on the mill is tight. And just keep a few hand tools around in here, plus our moisture meter. Yeah, everything we need to run the mill lives in that box, and it shelters. There's usually a fuel can right there, but, well, we filled the mill, emptied the can, it's in the truck. And then we keep a couple extra stickers here, because sometimes we're gonna, when we put these, we fill these bunks up, and we know it's gonna be several weeks before we get to milling, we'll put these stickers down and put the logs on top, just so they don't sit there and gather up even more moisture, which these pine trees do. So that's pretty much our layout, and trying to go along carefully, try not to make too many big mistakes. We definitely want to get the mill up on a platform, not real high. I don't mind running it from the ground, but of course, you know, if you're interested in these mills and you've done any looking, you know that the handles are adjustable, blah blah blah. And right now we're thinking about 8 feet wide and just a little bit longer than the mill, and we'll probably angle it just a little bit. Better sun exposure, a little more room for feeding it this way with tractor without removing too much space here, because as I said, there's my septic tank, and I can come through here with larger logs, and with the mill, yeah, that's what happens when you're hooking up 3-point hitch stuff. If the mill is canted slightly this way, it improves the angle right there for me to come through. So there's the update. I hope that that answers a bunch of the questions that I've gotten, but I gotta go because I want to cut the rest of this up before it rains. All right, y'all, thanks for stopping by. See you next time around.